What is your favorite taco or tortilla like?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question and hard question. Well, I'm mostly vegetarian, technically a pescatarian. I eat fish, although my partner's Mexican, and if he cooks something that's meat, I'll eat a couple bites of that. Um, Oh, there's so many. You can get so creative with tacos. I really love fish tacos, either made at home on the grill, the stovetop, or there's a couple places that have some really great either fried or like a pan fried fish taco, especially if it comes with like a creamy, not too spicy, like avocado salsa and with some cabbage. It kind of is a slaw on top, so you get the kind of softness of the fish, that crunch from the cabbage, and then the creamy and a little bit of spice. That's like perfect taco for me.
You guys are in Chicago. Now, if we look at the history of Chicago with Haymarket Square, Bughouse Square, the 1968 Democratic National Convention, Chicago is very clearly a city well known for workers' struggles. How do you situate your organization's activity in Chicago's history and in Chicago today?
Yeah, great question. As you stated, there's so much really important labor history here, including May Day. We march on May Day,
Mhm.
which people around the world do. International Workers' Day, even though in the states we have Labor Day separate, but folks definitely very proudly march on May Day. And that's actually a really great example of connecting history to today. And May Day, started basically in Chicago, and it was immigrant workers of the day, German and much more Central or Eastern European immigrants, and Western European immigrants at the time, trying to organize for very difficult conditions. And so it's both proud to carry on that tradition. At the same time, it's really sad to see how things have not changed. Maybe who is in the struggle has changed, based on changing global demographics and who's immigrating here. But it's still immigrant workers, not only immigrant workers, right? It's women, any workers of color, and immigrant workers. And particularly that's who we work with, Polish and Latino immigrants. And sadly, so again, that's the type of exploitation abuse that continues. Who is carrying much of our society and making sure society runs are people, who are worked in these lowest paid, least safe, thankless jobs, continue to be immigrants. Just depending on what time in history you pick, is different folks. So that's one very direct way. I guess there is like an example of an actual time and place with May Day. Um, and let's see so as far as connecting history, so it's continuing that struggle, and at least at Arise, particularly the struggle of immigrant workers in particular, is a big part of that. And so I guess today, looking at labor history or the labor movement now, we very much see ourselves as part of the labor movement. And so our worker center works with basically all non-union workers, but we do have a part of the organization that works with the big L labor movement, directly with unions and workers who do have union representation. I had mentioned we work with the religious community a lot. So we organize religious folks to support union workers if they're struggling for a new contract, whether that's the hotel workers on strike a few years back, where all of downtown, all the hotels were shut down, and we had clergy on picket lines and praying with workers and going into meetings, talking with executives, to clergy on picket lines with the Milagro workers, right, and showing up there, for non-union workers. But so we kind of say we work with anyone who's working across the spectrum. So whether it's folks in the least, again, the lowest paid, least safe jobs, all the way up to folks who have struggled to win a union contract and are fighting to keep that contract or win some new rights. And so we're really, we like to think kind of at the cutting edge of the labor movement, and that we're part of the labor movement. We're not what folks always think about as being the labor movement, because we work a lot with non-union folks. But we like to make that connection. And we also, what we call incubate unions of folks who are at places and decide they want deeper protections. And they'll sometimes say things to us like, Oh, we wish we had something like in writing, so like more of a guarantee, something more permanent, to like ensure these things we want. We're like, yeah, that's a contract, and you get that with the union. So if a group of non-union workers come to us and decide they want union representation on the job, we organize with them and we partner with the union to make that possible too. So that's another way that we're the many different ways we're part of the current national labor movement, and we're one of very few worker centers that are doing that union incubation. And have also led the way in doing a lot of the policy work to protect more and more workers.